I'd like to start with Dee Dee. Hello, Dee Dee.
Hello.
Hi. So your friend Frances McDormand, also in the film, producing partner, she bought the rights to Miriam's book. And she has said that in her first meeting with you, you were so prepared that you brought diagrams. And I'd love to know what was in those diagrams and what did you talk about in that meeting that made you feel like, yes, we are going to make this film?
She's such a snitch. I drew the colony and all the stories of the colony and made sketches of all the, I don't know why. I just loved it, and I felt like I needed to animate it, and so I taped all these pages from my journal together and made this big sheet of paper and just drew the entire thing. And I just found it the other day because I gave my daughter the book. Sorry, what was the question?
I was just wondering, first of all, what was in the diagrams, which you just answered. And what did you walk away with as a shared vision after that conversation with Fran? Because this isn't the easiest story to bring to the screen and make it compelling and watchable, and not a chamber piece of theater, but something made for cinema. So what had the two of you agreed on that aggrandized you to really push forward?
I never questioned that it could be cinematic. I think it's visually cinematic, but I also think it's structurally cinematic. Like, I know how it ends. I know what incites it. I know how to map it, you know? I think we just thought, let's shoot for the moon and try. I didn't see why not to try. I figured, like, if 12 angry men can do it, so can 8 women.
Ben, amazing work as always. The lone male among so many incredible women, and what an honor I'm sure that was. In researching the book, I was interested to know that August is actually the narrator in the book. Your character is the narrator, which is a pretty big shift, and I'm glad you made that shift. I think it was very smart. As a male artist who's worked in film, television, theater, how did it feel for you to be in the presence of all of these women and tell this story, and how did it change you as an artist?
It felt amazing, and it was just a joy. It was very, it's sort of hard to describe, but it was, I experienced it as very, there was no competition going on, or it wasn't complicated. It was straightforward, and it was gentle, and it was focused, and it was funny, and so it was really a privilege. I would call home to girlfriend's home and was like, this is so crazy being, and so crazy because it's so unusual, so rare to be in a situation like being the only man and among so many women, and so I don't know. I just was like, basically, women are much better.
That's what I was waiting for you to say, but I didn't want to.
I wish I'd always known, but it was very much confirmed.
That's amazing. And Hildur, another amazing piece of art from you. This and Tar in the same year, just really staggering, incredible. But obviously, she's not talking about Tar tonight. This is
Don't you dare.
Talking. I read something funny that Sarah has said about you, which is, quote, "You are incapable of sentimentality," which I think is a really interesting thing to say about someone. And after scoring Sicario and Joker, I can sort of understand why she's saying those things, and for which you won an Oscar for Joker. So congratulations on that. Yes, amazing. And for me, it seems the score in this film isn't so much about sentiment as it is about hopefulness. It's like this constant reminder that things aren't always going to be this bad. It kind of comes in and there's a harbinger of good things to come. But then you also had the challenge in the flashbacks to call us back to those horrible moments with the bells, which is just so chilling. So tell me about the process of settling on that sort of binary approach and what experimentation you had to do along the way.
Yeah. Well, we had a bit of a back and forth to find the right tone for the movie, because I think, and like originally when I first, when I first read the script and I researched what happened to these women, I was just so angry. I was so angry and I was so sad that I literally got paralyzed for a few days, and I just cried for days, and I was just like, how do I even begin to write music that even begins to touch on what these women went through, and I found it was quite challenging for me in the beginning, and it's probably the darkest story that I worked on, and I worked on some pretty dark shit.
Rooney, congratulations again. Another amazing performance. I feel like so much hopefulness is embedded in your character, even as she's on the precipice of having a baby that was, created out of the worst possible circumstances. And it's almost like she herself represents that doomsday and a call to prayer at the same time. There's something beautiful going on, but it's very extreme. And she's so matter of fact, too. I love that about her. She's so practical, and she'll say things like, even the animals are safer in their homes than we are. And she says it with almost like a lightness, which is just so fascinating. And I'm wondering how much of this optimism and practicality that we see in her is resignation. And how did you play that emotion in preparing this character?
I don't know. I've never thought about that. I don't know how much of it is resignation. That's not how I thought of it. I think Ona is, I think she's been an outsider in this community for most of her life. She's different than everyone. And yet I think she, even though she is sort of an outsider and a rebel in a sense, she has such a steadfast faith and such a love for these women and for her community, which is rare, to be like an outsider and a rebel, but to still, hold your community close in that way.
And also what rebel means in that context.
Yeah.
Like, even just veering a little outside of the lines would earn her that title.
Yeah, I think she's living her life in her own way, but for herself, not to make any sort of statement. I think she just has a really high level of consciousness, and a lot of empathy and sensitivity, and a great capacity to love because of all those things. And I think she is really hopeful, and yeah.
And that blessings come sort of in unexpected ways, which I think is a just difficult thing to process, but it's quite beautiful. And thank you for your work. And Claire, I read an interview that you gave during the early promotion cycle of the film at the festivals, and you said something really interesting, which is cautioning people to not see this movie through the lens of Me Too, or sort of our current movement, reckoning, whatever it is that we're undergoing at the moment. And you said, quote, "This story is basically as old as time." And I couldn't agree with you more. And that made me think about religion and how much religion has fomented these types of structures that have hurt women over the years. And I'm wondering, do you think women can ever possibly be free in a system like this? A system that has created the types of men who would then hurt them in such horrible ways. Do you think that exists for women within the confines of this belief system?
God, I've got a hard question, haven't I? Glad you saved that
Go.
one for me. I don't know, is the answer. I don't live in a devoutly religious community. I am not devoutly religious myself. It was extraordinary to research and for a very small, tiny moment, live in a world where these women were in the process of separating religion and faith. And separating their existence from what they knew to be their faith and their reality. I think Agatha in the movie is very good, and Ona is as well, about separating those two things and helping the women to understand that there is a difference, and that their faith has been manipulated and used against them to harm them.
It almost seems like faith in each other and community.
Yeah, and that they're going in towards something where they can reimagine what that is for themselves. So I really don't know. I think freedom, and the freedom of women and the freedom of any group of people that have been oppressed, is something that I feel like is very much coming to a head now, and we're realizing how deep-rooted those problems are. And I just always want to caution against imagining that that's going to be a simple path. Not that I, have any, not that I know anything, but I just think that then it can be washed away. Like, the knowledge of something doesn't necessarily mean it's healed, I don't think.
We don't have a ton of time tonight, obviously, so I'll close with Sarah. And I just want to know how it feels for you to be on the other side of all of this creative female imagination, this active female imagination. And are you able to fully appreciate this effort that you have undertaken?
I mean, because it was such a collective and such a collaborative effort, yes, I'm able to be just really, really great about the process in a way that I wouldn't if it was more, the act of a single vision. But I had such amazing input at every stage, and so many people who brought all of themselves and their lived experience to the table. So I get to kind of appreciate and be grateful for all of that, which is amazing. But even, I was just thinking even details like something that becomes memorable for somebody, like you brought up Doomsday and a Call to Prayer, and that's a line of voiceover, but that's actually the way Hildur described the bells when she sent them to me. That's a line from her about her score that ended up in the voiceover. So when I see the film, I'm able to kind of see all of these little tendrils of different people's thoughts and dreams in the film, and so you're sort of able to be proud of it in a different way than if it was just your voice, and that's been thrilling.
And you created an environment where everyone knew that what they had to say was welcomed and valued. That's huge.
Just this group created that, it was like a community of people who all were able to step back and make space.
She did it.
She's Canadian. I know she doesn't like to take credit for things, but that's very clear. And even just being backstage with you, so much laughter and joy. It's clear that you have a very special connection, and it shows. And thank you so much for making this movie. We really appreciate it.
Much.
Thank you for coming out tonight. Have a wonderful evening. Thank you.